This weekend, I made a $1.1 million investment that um, was not planned. It wasn't planned, and that the bank has already valued it at $1.3 million. Right, so crazy. I'm going to give you a lot more background on this. So I've actually made $200,000 without lifting a finger, and just from following a nudge. Now, let me give you some background on this, a quick backstory. So I saw this property, or this the immediate neighboring property, come on the market last year around October, right? And I really wanted it. I really, really wanted it. I went to the auction, and I was, bidding amongst about six other people, and it sold for 1.395 million, right? So almost 1.4 million. And it's fair to say the people who won had deeper pockets. They were willing to invest that much, and I wasn't, right? So I had to stop. I had to stop. Emotionally, I really wanted to keep going, and um, but I decided to stop, and I pulled out at the 1.35 million mark, right? And it ended up selling for 1.395. I was quite heartbroken at the time. And in fact, I've been on and off looking at properties since, but haven't found the right place. And even Tuesday last week, I actually went to look at a property in the city, and I think I even shared something about it in a post, right? And said that I'm going to be making $1 million move. And look, it wasn't great, right? It wasn't the best property that I'd seen, but there was something about it that I quite liked. And so that was on Tuesday, and on Thursday, I actually took my husband back to look at the property, and he hated it, right? And we're partners. We're partners in everything that we do. And so, whilst I've made some big, bold, brave moves completely by myself, with this particular investment, we're doing it together. So I needed his buy-in, and in the car on the way home after seeing the property, we had a heated argument. Let's even say, actually, there was no argument. I was it was a heated discussion, and it was mostly coming from me, right? And my husband was just quietly, he was just driving and just listening to me carrying on. And, the point that I was making was that, I don't know, we had really been really brave and bold in the past in the choices and decisions that we've made. And recently, especially since we've turned 50, we're being a bit more cautious. We're being a bit more careful. We truly used to have this attitude of, it's only money, we can make so much more, and quite honestly, a lot of it came from me. I'm the maverick in the couple, and I'm the risk taker, and he's just been incredibly, incredibly supportive of me, right? And but I've noticed that we've become comfortable. We are very comfortable. We don't need more money. And we have a lot of disposable. We're comfortable, right? And so um, we also don't want to get uncomfortable again, or so I was starting to notice. And so we were being a bit more cautious with the investments that we were making, because we feel as though somewhere inside of us we feel like, well, we've got less time now to make it back as we're getting older, right? And this is what happens. This is what typically happens as we get older. We tend to become a little bit more careful, a bit more conservative, a bit more cautious. We're less risk takers, and this is why it's not uncommon for us to see 20 something year olds who have incredible success, even as business coaches, straight out of university, and in some case, school dropouts. And I admire that, right? I admire their guts, their courage, their determination to succeed. And that's what gets them there. It's not experience. Right? Compared to someone who's 20, in their 30s or 40s or 50s, right? Who've often got years of experience behind them, but sometimes they don't often have the same level of courage. Anyway, so on Friday evening, so we had this discussion on Thursday driving back home. That was that. But on Friday evening, I'm watching Netflix, just watching Netflix, but also scrolling through real estate. And I see the property immediately next door to the one that I saw back in October, November last year, and that I missed out on the auction. And I was just like, oh my gosh, it's exactly the same. This is exactly what I want. It's a heritage listed building in Melbourne. I can't give too much away because, for privacy reasons. And it's an iconic building, a fantastic location. It's a really good investment. And anyway, it ticks all my boxes, right? And so we see it now. Tell my husband about it. The auction was on Saturday. Now, we've only seen it Friday night. We haven't even actually read the contract or know anything about it, right? But we went to the auction on Saturday, and we were so unprepared because we were so sure that we were just going to watch, right? We were just going to watch the auction and see what it was going to go for. And because we were expecting for it to sell around that $1.4 million mark, right? Same as the last one. And we felt a very strong nudge, and we had a coffee just before the auction. We got there 30 minutes before the auction. We had a coffee, and a chat beforehand, and we decided we were going to put our hand up at the auction. See what happens, right? What have we got to lose? Give it a shot, right? And so we did. And as it turned out, we found out just before the auction, or at the very start of the auction, that the property was going to sell. And there was only, because for financial reasons, the vendor had to sell because, anyway, I won't go into that. And the property had to sell, and there was only one other bidder. If we hadn't shown up, they would have potentially got the property, right? But we ended up winning, the auction, and we got it for $200,000 below the market value. Right? All because we felt a nudge. And it was subsequently that I created an $11 secret offer to celebrate this huge win, right? So if you feel the nudge, right? If you are watching this and you feel the nudge, comment 11 below or send me a DM and I will share the link. I can't tell you much more. It's a secret offer, but I really want you to follow the nudge. The price will increase to $111 tomorrow. And when it does, I will reveal more. Hello, Jen. Good to see you. Thank you. I know, right? I am so excited. Thank you. Look, it was scary, right? It was scary. And let me talk about how you can trust your intuition, feel the nudge, and make the big moves that lead to major shifts in your life, right? So I want to take you back, story time, take you back to when I was 22 years old. That's how old I was when I bought my very first property, my first home, right? And that property literally was the launch pad to everything that I have achieved ever since. Yeah. And All that I had was £5,000. I lived in the UK at the time, pounds, right? And this was in London. And that's all I had to pay for the deposit, right? And I actually bought it, I rented it, and I took off on an around the world trip by myself. Yeah. Who here has traveled alone and not knowing where you are going, what you'll be doing, who you'll be meeting, etc., but just trusting that you will figure it out? Have you ever done that? When I look back at the 20 something version of myself, I am so freaking incredibly proud of her because of how bold she was, right? Fun fact. On that round the world trip, I started off in Asia, and then I went to New Zealand, and I went hitchhiking by myself around New Zealand for 2 whole months, right? Some people might call that stupid. I call it brave, right? And true story, I got picked up by a pilot who was in his car driving to the airport, and he flew me on his private plane. That was the most wild, fun, scary experience that I will never forget for the rest of my life, right? And that would not have happened if I hadn't been brave enough to do something, right? That hitchhiking experience was just like, I have so many stories from that time. I was picked up by bread trucks who, and one truck driver told another truck driver. And so I was meeting all these interesting truck drivers everywhere who were just taking me around. And I saw parts of New Zealand, like I saw everything there was to see in New Zealand. But anyway, I won't go into that much more than that. I got to Australia after my 2 months in New Zealand, and about 2 months into my time in Australia, I met my lovely husband, my favorite husband, as I refer to him, my only husband, actually, Michael, about 2 months after arriving here, right? Um, Hi, Sass. Just wait, the stories get crazier, right? Michael was the bouncer in the pub that was downstairs below the backpackers that I was staying in. I could only afford to stay in a backpackers at that time. And he was the bouncer in the pub downstairs. And we obviously hit it off. We got married 8 months later, right? 8 months later, only because we decided we didn't want to have a long distance relationship. And we have been married now for 26 plus years, right? So a lot of people are like, seriously, you did that? Yes, I did. Um, Fast forward to having kids. We didn't actually have kids for about 5 or 6 years because we were having the time of our lives. We continued to travel. We were partying hard. We really enjoyed our 20s. It's fair to say, and even early 30s. And we were about 32. We'd been married by this point for about, I don't know, for a while, 6 years or something. And so we decided, I actually decided that I wanted to have kids because I was actually afraid of missing out, right? Not because I had this kind of strong maternal urge or instinct to become a mother. And a bit of FOMO was kicking in. And, the old body clock and all of that kind of stuff. So, um, you can't imagine me partying now. I know, Sass. See, this is the thing, right? I was this party animal. I went traveling around the world by myself, right? I partied hard. Trust me, I did. And like, I have become so comfortable recently, and I've really recognized that in me, right? And I'm going to lead into that story too. But so I had my first baby, and I knew immediately it was the right decision, right? Thank God. But that was the best decision I ever made. And I went on to have a second baby within 2 years. And after both times, after maternity leave, I went back to work because at the time I was earning more money and it made sense. And my husband stayed at home with the kids, right? And we have no regrets. We were a very unconventional couple, and that made sense at the time. And I went back to being very focused and driven in my corporate career. And then feeling another nudge, feeling another nudge with a 2-year-old and a 4-year-old at home, I quit my 9 to 5. We borrowed $300,000 against our home. So that first place that I bought back in London, ended up selling that, by the way, and that helped with the deposit to buy our first home. And then we borrowed $300,000 against that home in order to start our first business, right? And we had a 2-year-old and 4-year-old at home, and neither of us, we were now both unemployed, right? Starting our first business. I have always made bold moves. That is the point, right? I've just trusted and had the faith that we can figure it out. Yeah. So when I hear people say, "Oh, it's really easy for you, Anne." "Oh, it's really easy for you. You've made millions. You've got this, you've got that, you've got the other thing." Excuse me? I'm like, no, nothing's been easy. Nothing has been given to me on a plate, right? I'm a woman of color with migrant parents who worked their backsides off to give us a comfortable life, right? I've had a comfortable life, don't get me wrong. And I know that's privilege in itself. I have been financially independent since the age of 18. I left home at 18 to go to university. I paid my own university debts and loans and worked part-time as I put myself through university, and I've worked ever since, right? Nothing was given to me. I am so incredibly grateful for the comfort the comfortable life that my parents gave me. Don't get me wrong, but I have worked for everything that I have today, right? I've worked hard, quite honestly, and I have made some big, scary, bold moves, and there's more. Yeah. So please don't just see the end result and assume it's been sunshine and roses and everything's been easy. I've also lost money along the way. I've made bad investments along the way. But that's all part of the journey, right? I've learned so much from those experiences. Yeah. So here's another fun story. I bought a $500,000 beach house without even seeing it, right? I didn't see it. I was scrolling, looking at real estate. I love real estate, right? I've bought and sold lots of real estate along the way. That's a little bit of a side hobby of mine. Yeah. And I was scrolling, looking at real estate in a really expensive beachy area of around where I live. And it's about an hour and a half from where we live. And I love this area. And my dream was to own a beach house, right, in this area. And I saw it, and it was $450,000. And I was like, bullshit. There's no way. That's a mistake. So anyway, I contact the real estate agent, and it was like it's the cost of the land alone would be more than that, right? So I contacted the real estate agent and I was like, what's the story here? And he said, oh, you've got to see it. It's a complete knockdown. You've got to demolish the house. It's being sold for the cost of the land because the house is just not livable. And I was like, yeah, but I can see the photos. I can see the pictures and it looks like there's a roof, there's a house. How bad can it be? And he said, and you've got to see it. It's got to be knocked down. You can't, it's not something you can renovate. And I was like, okay. So auctions are very common, by the way, where I live, right? In Melbourne. So there was an auction. I ended up bidding. I hadn't even seen it. He told me, don't buy it without seeing it. I said, yeah, that's fine. I bought it. I got it for $500,000. Then I went to see it. Oh my gosh. When I saw it, I saw really how bad it was, right? And it was really bad. But it was too late. We already owned this beach house and we couldn't at that point afford to actually knock it down and rebuild. We probably wouldn't have got the lending at that point, and so we fixed it. We fixed it up. We renovated it. We fixed it up. Then I sold it and made $200,000 during COVID. I sold it during COVID, actually, and made $200,000. I actually bought it just before COVID. So I kept it for a couple of years. We used it. We had a bit of fun with it. And then, when I couldn't use it during COVID and a few other things happened, we ended up selling it, So this is how we've been able to make big, scary, bold moves and keep adding to our wealth, right? And what I'm trying to say is I could go on for hours talking about the audacity that I've had in my life and the crazy moves that I've made, right? That made no sense. Yeah, that led to where I am today. Even starting my online coaching business truly wasn't easy for me, right? It wasn't easy for me. Sure, I had a successful offline business, but I felt like a complete imposter when I first came online. And being the face of my brand was really tough for me. I've never had that level of visibility, right? Doing this sort of stuff, doing Facebook Lives, oh my goodness, yeah, I can make big, bold, brave moves behind the scenes, but being the face, even, coming on my public profile, doing this Facebook Live that everyone can see, my friends, my family, everyone can see, and we talking about money and investments and the crazy things that I've done, it doesn't feel comfortable, right? I have walked with fear every step of the way. I've had the courage before I've had the confidence, right? I've just followed the nudge. I've trusted myself and I've said yes to opportunities before I've even known the answers, right? Of how I'm going to even make it work. Last year, I had one of the best and worst years in my online business, right? And I haven't actually spoken about this before. I celebrated multiple 100K months. I celebrated a 100K week. I celebrated a 50K day. I celebrated the best clients I could ever have asked for and the incredible results they were able to achieve. It was the best year. And it was also the most difficult year ever. I'd actually go as far as to almost say ever, Oh, no, I won't say ever. it was a difficult year in business, right? In my online business. I dealt with some difficult client situations, and it really knocked my confidence. It was a really tough year, right? That's the dualities of life. I had a conversation with a client who was outright lying about her achievements, and I tried to convince her that she was enough. And I still say that to this day. She was an incredible woman. She was gifted. She did not have to lie, right? And all I was suggesting to her was that she should be more embodied and that she was enough and she could still be successful. She didn't like that. She didn't like that conversation at all, right? And so not only did she quit, but she actually put through a chargeback through Stripe, and she spread lies about me. And it was heartbreaking. I have never felt so hurt by someone. That shattered my confidence. That it now, when I'm sharing the story and reflecting back on it, I'm like, oh my God, Anne, you totally overreacted to what happened. But that shattered my confidence. I suddenly felt like I couldn't speak my truth. I couldn't, I was so like afraid of saying anything without it backfiring on me, because that's essentially what had happened. My clients, a few of my clients on the inside knew what was going on, but I didn't want to talk about it publicly, and I didn't want to add to the noise that was already out there, and I just stayed quiet about it. So I made it mean more than what it was. I made it mean something about me. I added meaning to that experience when it had nothing to do with me and everything to do with her, right? It was after doing the work, which took some time, and bouncing back from that experience that I realized how much I had withdrawn from my own business. I was still showing up, I was still doing the thing, but I was in my comfort zone, right? I was like not putting myself out, and I was very much in my comfort zone. And so the Conscious Millionaires movement was born, right, from that. And this is the work I'm here to do, and I'm a highly strategic business coach. And what I love is also calling forward women. I love working with women. Nothing against men. I do privately work with men too, but I call forward women to step out of your comfort zone, to be brave, to be bold, to have the audacity to believe that you can be, do, and have everything that you desire. To stop settling for mediocre and to refuse to let the limitations of your mind stop you from achieving everything that you desire. We all have this millionairess that is within us, right? And it's about making these bold, brave, scary moves. It doesn't always have to involve investing millions, right? But trusting yourself, trusting your intuition, feeling the nudge, yeah, and walking with fear, taking risks, and just going all in, right? Nobody dies, right? Nobody dies from failing, you know? And it's the fear of disappointment that holds so many people back. And we have to stop. We have to stop letting fear run our lives. And instead, we have to learn to walk with fear, right? Look, I've walked with fear every single freaking day, and I still feel fear. I felt fear before I even pressed go live on this Facebook Live, because I'm doing it in public on my profile. Yeah. My comfort zone is my Facebook group. I love my Facebook group. I love the intimacy of that group. I love that I know everyone who's in that group. Of course, I don't intimately know every single person, but I love it. I feel safe there. Right? Here in the big wide west of Facebook, it's just like, trolls. I've been trolled recently, and it's not fun. It's scary, And so I walk with fear every day. And I've always known that the real power lies in being willing to fail and still going for what we want. You don't have to have it all figured out. Trust that everything can be figured out along the way. That's the key. Don't focus on what could go wrong. Instead, focus on creating the reality that you freaking want. And while I'm on a roll, I want to call out something I see that's overused. It's an excuse, right? For not committing, for not going all in. And please forgive me if I offend anyone. And that's things like ADHD, shiny object syndrome. Look, and I know they're not the same thing. And I also know that many people have genuinely been diagnosed, with ADHD. And there are also many people who are self-diagnosed with ADHD. Another thing that I'm calling out is, human design. Oh, I'm a manifesting generator, therefore I just like creating all the time. I like creating new offers all the time. Or I'm a projector and, I just don't have the energy to show up the same way. Or, ADHD and I just can't focus on one thing, right? At the risk of alienating a few of you, right, jumping from one thing to the next thing to the next thing is not the solution. Often what happens is because you've given yourself these labels when really you've not fully committed to what it is that you want because you're trying to avoid disappointment. Yeah. Trust me, if you created one thing and that made you millions, you'd find a way to stay focused on that one thing. The ADHD, the shiny object syndrome, all the different labels that we give ourselves for why we can't do and have everything that we truly desire would not be there. We wouldn't have the distractions if we had everything that we wanted, right? It's often used as an excuse to not fully commit and not to go fully in with what it is that we want in case we get disappointed. What if the fear you're avoiding is by not committing is the very breakthrough that could lead to millions? I also want to touch on the various insecurities we have. And we all have them, right? I have them. I'm now in my 50s. I have insecurities. I have insecurities about being a woman of color. I've always felt this pressure to be better in order to be the chosen one. I have to prove myself more. These are all my insecurities. I'm not even saying these are facts, by the way, but these are my insecurities. The truth is we all have them. Yeah. Even before launching this secret offer, I had that little voice in my head, in the back of my mind saying, what if no one buys, Anne? What if no one buys an $11 secret offer? What if no one buys? But then I decided, fuck it. Even if just one person bought, I'd celebrate that win. And if no one bought, oh well, it's their loss, right? If one person bought, I will give them the best possible experience so they'd never ignore the nudge, to trust their intuition again. That was my goal. So watch out. Watch out for those of you who are following the nudge. Be prepared. So, to celebrate my recent investment and the power of following your intuition, I've created an $11. It is a secret offer, and it's a secret for another 24 hours. You can grab it at this price before it goes up to $111, right? And even at $111, it will be worth it. I wish I could tell you more. I can't tell you more just yet, but trust me, this is something that will shift the way you sell forever. So it's an opportunity for making money, right? If you've ever felt that nudge to make a move but hesitated, this is your moment. Let your intuition guide you, right? And take that next step with me. Only if you feel the nudge. I am going to leave it at that, gorgeous woman. Oh my gosh, I've been talking for a long time. Thank you. Thank you for being here. Thank you for listening to my TED Talk. And I look forward to connecting with many of you inside of the secret offer. Talk to you soon. Bye.